With us. The Nigeria Labour Congress has requested an extension of time for its President Joe Ajaero to honor the police invitation over the allegations leveled against him, including terrorism financing. In a letter by solicitors to the NLC signed by Samuel Ogala, Joe Ajaero is unable to honor Tuesday's invitation as he has an engagement that had been fixed before the invitation letter was received. The letter also stated that Mr. Ajaero is prepared to attend the interview on Wednesday, the 29th of August. The NLC president is also requesting to know details and nature of the allegations of criminal conspiracy, terrorism financing, treasonable felony, subversion and cybercrime leveled against him. Joining us in the studio is Ologun, a lawyer and public affairs analyst, to expatiate on this matter. Good morning. It's good to have you join us.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Right. If you look at the papers this morning, it is awash with this matter of the invitation of the NLC president. And some of the statement coming out of the Congress is that they are being harassed by government. And there are those questions asking, okay, who is harassing who as we speak? Because the Congress is saying that they will down tools if the comrade is arrested, that's the president if he's arrested, and all of it. But is this harassment, so to speak, from government if they are calling, asking that you come and perhaps speak to certain issues?
Thank you. Wonderful question there. Let's start from the angle of the TSS and the police. When you look at the mission of the police is to make the country a safe and secure place for economic development and growth. And for that purpose, they are to prevent, detect crimes, and of course can apprehend for investigation purposes. Of course, proceed to prosecute where necessary. So that is the constitutional mandate of the police, and that can be carried out to ensure that there is security in the land, because the main assignment is to ensure that we have protection of lives and properties. And the DSS also is to gather intelligence and ensure that we have internal security in the nation and protect our leaders, particularly the president and the governors. So when I started reading about going to the NLC, building to get some documents and things like that, I knew something was coming up. And if the police have gathered some materials that they have tagged as seditious, and when you talk about sedition, it is about inciting people to rebel against authority, then I throw it on the table of criminal justice ecosystem that has three main pillars, which is thorough investigation, diligent prosecution before a committed judiciary. So right now, when the police invite you, they are carrying out investigation. I think there's just a suspicion from NLC that it may go beyond that. And it's a great thing that Ajaero and NLC, that they have a very good legal representation in the person of the senior silk, Femi Falana, who has demanded that clarifications be made, because I'll let you know those allegations are weighty allegations. Absolutely. Talking about treasonable felony, sedition, cybercrime, and funding terrorism.
Yes.
And I want to leave it on the scale of thorough investigation. Let's see, because obviously the police got something. And one of the allegations is that a Sudanese terrorist or so has been found romancing or hovering around the secretariat of the NLC, and that the NLC is mobilizing terrorists against the authority. But these are allegations, because if you go to section 36 of the Nigerian Constitution, we have this presumption of innocence. The defendant is entitled to fair hearing. So, absolutely. And what the law says is that even the defendant is presumed innocent until the allegations are proved beyond all reasonable doubt. So here we are now. And the son has asked for more time.
Yeah.
For which also is legitimate for him to appear and seeking for clarification so that there won't be surprises. But the back end is that the NLC is now threatening that
they're down to.
Exactly. So it's a very sensitive matter.
But when you look at the reaction of the NLC, there are those questioning issues. This shouldn't be a problem. It's just a questioning that the president was asked to come and do. It's just going to be questioned. So they're reacting in this manner is begging some certain questions from Nigerians.
You know, in law, there is what you call precedent. In public relations, there is perception. So it's a mixture of the two now. Let me take us to the case of Emefiele. It also started like this, funding terrorism, different kind of offenses until the charges started changing. Emefiele is not yet out from the net of the government. I mean, even though investigations revealed some heinous crime against the state. Let me now take us back to 2018. You recall the Offa robbery. In 2018, I think it was April 5, 2018. And within hours, it was linked to the then Senate President Bukola Saraki, claiming that the 5 arrowheads of the robbery attended the wedding of the then President of Senate. So he must be involved. So and at the end of the day, what happened to this Offa matter? And what led to that? It was a time the President of the Senate came up with about 10 resolutions against the then President, Muhammadu Buhari, even though some senators were not in support. So you recall when DSS just woke up and went to barricade the National Assembly. So the trust capital is very weak for that relationship. So you need to be careful, particularly when the human rights respect profile of the nation may not be upscale. You see, and particularly when the government is maybe out to deal with the end bad governance protesters, because this is the direct
But they came out to say that they are not part of it.
Yeah, but I read a report also that they were not part of it, but they used some of the barricades of NLC, you see. So, and as a chief superintendent of police, I can let you know that when investigations commence, if the government is determined to nail anyone, you may not escape from that net. So I think right now that thorough investigation should be allowed, and the fundamental human rights of the stakeholders should be allowed.
That's right.
I also want to advise the government to please shift attention from symptoms and begin to address the fundamental issues in this land, just like the NSAS protest also. What are the underlying issues that are prompting these responses and agitations in the society? Address them. Even if somebody is arrested and jailed for 20 years, will that change the situation until we attend to the economy of the nation and ensure that the provisions of Section 16 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended that stipulates that the economy should not be managed in a way that concentrates wealth in the hands of a few. When we begin to generate common wealth for common good, then we may have more persons to arrest, because the agitations
But one won't say that because there are fundamental issues that the government has failed or maybe has not sufficiently addressed, and some people are calling for the head of the government, just so to speak, or trying to upturn the sanity in the society. So that shouldn't be a ground for anyone to go beyond the provisions of the law.
You see, in management, we talk about proactivism, which means you act ahead. And in public relations, we talk about crisis management. You have the proactive crisis management where you prevent issues from escalating into crisis. And we have the reactive. When you are managing the crisis, you could have prevented. Is anybody calling for the head of government in Switzerland, in Sweden, in Austria, and I can go on, in Singapore? And that is why I'm just advising the government. You see, so and it's a function of perception. Fine. The perception of the government is that, why are you disturbing us? We are doing our best. But the perception of the citizens is that there is hunger in the land, there is hardship in the land, that this economy is not beneficial to all. And on the scale of ROI, returns on investment, is that correct? Yes. When you look at the parity, as we speak now, here, we have fuel crisis. You know, so these are issues. Now, let's assume Ajaero now shows up in the police, whatever, office, and the government decides to keep him for more than 24 or 48 hours without doing the proper thing, and NLC shuts down the nation. What happens again to the nation? And we need to look at the concept of reputation. How is this country being managed? The opportunities are there to do the right thing. These are corporate governance issues. You see, so that is my concern.
But in event, no one is saying, of course, he is presumed innocent, but in event that they were able to establish, something very, significant or something very cogent about some of these allegations that were leveled against him, should the NLC be throwing their weight behind anyone who is found wanting, so to speak?
I laid a precedent. When Emefiele saga started, a lot of stakeholders came in, talking about intimidation, about this and that, ethnicity and everything. But eventually, when revelations started coming out, who is advocating for, who is concerned about Emefiele now? In fact, some are even saying he should stay with them, and some are even saying fast track his prosecution and let him go and cool down. That is the point we are making. When Ekweremadu was apprehended in the UK, there were agitations. Chief Olusegun Obasanjo wrote a letter. Yeah. The ECOWAS tried to intervene, but the process of law proceeded. And that's the point we are making. So if the police, if there are concrete evidence and exhibits to link him to crime, crime is crime. A crime is an offense against the state. And under the concept of the rule of law, nobody is above the law. Absolutely. Even when I've said it, if you go and monitor the profile of governance in South Korea, some past presidents have gone to prison in South Korea, because the moment you step out of office, your immunity stops there. Even in South Africa. That is the point we are making. So, and that's why I laid the foundation that the police has a mandate to make the country a safer, not even safe, if you go and check it, a safer and more secured environment for economic development and growth, and to protect lives and property. So if there are things that are threatening the internal security of the nation, it's in the purview of the police to either prevent or apprehend the players, investigate, and let there be consequences. So that is a legitimate role. But on the part of the government also, Section 14, subsection 2 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended says clearly that the security and the welfare of the citizens shall be the primary purpose of government. So if we now had a weak welfare system that has prompted people to come out and protest, it should also be addressed. And let's see how we can bridge that gap. And again, like I said in one of the earlier interviews, I congratulate the president, particularly with those flying the flags of Russia and everything, because those are handwritings also on the wall. So you can even use that to test your political thermometer and know where you are flowing. So it's about generating commonwealth for common good. So
absolutely.